Let's talk about veteran-serving nonprofit organizations. How is that a controversial thing? More nonprofit organizations serving veterans means more veterans helped, right? Unfortunately, we got some problems in the nonprofit industry overarchingly, but specifically when it comes to veteran-serving nonprofit organizations, I got 5 big problems in the arena of both chartered and non-chartered self-proclaimed veteran-serving organizations, and I got some solutions at the end. There are so many predatory, useless, frivolous, veteran-serving organizations that there are now nonprofits that exist to certify the nonprofits. This is a nonprofit which tells you which nonprofits are valuable and which ones are garbage. Pretty soon, we're going to have organizations that exist to sift through the organizations that are there to sift through and rate the organizations. Talk about bloat. Look, the intentions are good, but this is mostly a broken system and a broken industry. I gotta clarify one thing. I'm gonna use the term VSO, which stands for Veteran Serving Organization, and I understand full well the difference between a chartered VSO and a non-chartered VSO. A chartered VSO has people that are registered certified service officers that can submit claims on a veteran's behalf. Examples of a chartered VSO: the VFW, Disabled American Veterans, American Legion, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Vietnam Veterans of America, I think they're called. There's only a small handful of those. So when I say VSOs, I'm talking about any nonprofit organization that is a self-proclaimed veteran-serving organization. All right, problem number 1, saturation. I'm going to estimate that there are around 50,000 veteran-serving organizations registered with the IRS. GuideStar, if you've ever been to guidestar.org, it's the most comprehensive database that collects information about nonprofits. If I would ever apply for a nonprofit organization or wanted to learn more about a nonprofit organization, I would go to GuideStar. If I wanted to apply and see how strong it is, I could go into their financial records, which are public for nonprofits, and look into how they're spending their money, how much they're paying their executive director, all those things. So through a 2015 GuideStar study, they said about 45,000 veteran-serving organizations registered with the IRS. I am unofficially and without any data to back it up predicting there's between 45 and 50,000 self-proclaimed veteran-serving organizations registered with the IRS. Now, 65% of those are posts or charters that are subgroups of national legacy chartered VSOs. 28% of those 45 to 50,000 get less than $50,000 in contributions annually. 40% of those get greater than $250,000 in contributions between individual contributions and grants annually. 64% of those organizations, of those 45 to 50,000, do not make grants or payouts. So they are directly program offerings. All right, so there's 19 million veterans. Let's just say approximately 19 million veterans. 50,000 VSOs. You do some quick math on that. That's 1 VSO for every 380 vets. That all of a sudden makes it look pretty darn manageable, right? 1 VSO that gets contributions anywhere between 50 and $250,000, often 40% of which greater than $250,000 annually. You think they'd be able to provide the support that's needed? Wrong. There's too many of them, and there's too many of them that are not targeted. It dilutes the impact when there's too many. They step on each other's toes, they muddy the waters, and they're not targeted enough, which brings me to problem number 2, specialization. Nonprofits right now in the veteran arena are not targeted enough. There's so many people that have good intentions that just want to help out without targeted goals in mind. And good intentions in the nonprofit world end up doing more harm than help. Let me give you an example. So a guy who is a non-veteran says, I want to help veterans. It's altruistic. I've had people come to me and say, I want to help veterans. I want to start a nonprofit. My first question is, okay, what do you want to help them with? And 9 times out of 10 is just, well, I just want to help. And it comes from a very real, visceral place of concern and want to help and gratitude. And I think that's awesome. But then people make uninformed decisions and they say, well, I don't know if I want to be statewide, regional, or national. Probably national. I can help more veterans, right? I don't know how I want to help. I just want to come across problems and solve them. So they start fundraising. They get a good website together. They start marketing, and they get some first-time donors. These are people that get sucked in by the patriotic verbiage. They're first-time donors, and they're excited to provide support and to help. Somebody donates $1,000, $10,000, $15,000. And that not targeted, not organized, not well-planned nonprofit organization ends up not making a targeted impact. More often than not, those donated dollars go into administrative fees, overhead, wasted spending, salaries. But let's say that first-time donor donates $1,000. They part with $1,000 of their hard-earned money because something compelled them to make a positive impact. And then they see no ROI. There is nothing that shows them that their dollars were used to make a difference, and they become disenfranchised. So not only just having more nonprofit organizations dilute the funding pool because there's only so much money and so many donors out there. But then it disenfranchises first-time donors because they say, why would I donate to a veteran-serving organization? They don't do crap. And then it's twice as hard to get them to re-engage with a worthwhile veteran-serving organization if they ever even do. I think I should get on to problem number 3, friends. Predatory organizations exist. And what I'm going to do to explain this is the best thing that I found is an article from ARP of all places called Veterans Charity Scam. I'm just going to read a highlight from this for you to just put this in perspective because they put it better than I ever can. American Disabled Veterans Foundation, Healing Heroes Network, Veterans Fighting Breast Cancer, Military Families of America. They sound like just the sort of organizations that generous Americans would rush to support to repay those who have served the country and now need our help. Sounds like is the operative phrase here. These are all sham charities that federal and state watchdogs have sued in recent years for misleading donors according to the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC. Basically what these are scams used to exploit Americans' gratitude for military members' service and sacrifice. It's offensive. Of course, I mean, it is just the most dishonorable of the dishonorable. So check this out. This is from the American Veterans Foundation. Their appeal was, statistics tell us that as many as 1/3 of all homeless people in the U.S. are American veterans who serve their country faithfully. With your assistance, we offer these American veterans the assistance they so desperately need. It's American Veterans Foundation. They raised nearly $6.5 million from donors who were told their contributions provided care packages and other aid for deployed troops and homeless veterans. Instead, the organization shoveled 92% of its money that it raised into telemarketing and administrative costs before the FTC shut it down in 2019. And guess what those other administrative costs were? Salaries. You think people in nonprofits don't make money? You're wrong. There's so much money to be made in the nonprofit industry. A good, long-standing nonprofit organization, heck, even a charter of a good, long-standing nonprofit organization. Those executive directors of those, and deservedly so, for those big organizations, because they do a lot, and they do a lot of good in a lot of cases. They make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. It depends on the annual revenue of the organization and the number of employees they have. The only thing that makes it a nonprofit situation is that at the end of the year, they don't have overhead. They don't have excess revenue that gets paid out to shareholders or gets paid out to a certain business owner. That's the only thing. And no matter where you work, a certain percentage out of necessity goes towards administrative fees, goes towards marketing, goes towards staff salaries, goes towards print materials, and does not end up being used to directly impact, maybe indirectly impact, but a certain percentage is not going to go for direct impact. Problem number 4, competition. Veteran organizations don't play nice with one another, especially at the local level. Do not play nice with one another. And this is something that I've said that has ticked people off. I've gotten hate mail over this. How dare you disparage the veteran community? That's not what I'm saying. Because I have witnessed these organizations thinking that they know better than the other organizations. And not only that, but they know better and they can do it better than the other organizations. And that fierce competition turns into veterans eating their own. And I've seen it. I've seen veteran for-profit business owners sabotage veteran nonprofit owners. I've seen veteran nonprofit executive directors sabotage for-profit veteran-owned businesses. I've seen them fight for the spotlight and for attention. I've seen them attack one another in person and behind each other's backs. I think the tide is turning, though. I feel as if it is, because people are starting to recognize it. At least in Wisconsin, I'm starting to see organizations that executive directors and business owners that in the past butt heads start to work together. Problem number 5. This is another one I've gotten a lot of flack for saying out loud. A lot of veteran-serving organizations are antiquated. They are not relevant to the needs of today's veterans. I once visited a legacy VSO at their post. Super nice people. My experience was not at all reflective upon the people there. It was reflective of the culture of the organization, because I got in there and the spirit was like a morgue, and you could hear bad karaoke through the wall on the other end of the facility, and there was a liquor raffle. I mean, I'm trying to grow my career as a professional, as a veteran. I'm trying to establish myself. You know, we've got a liquor raffle. We had somebody do his health review, and where he just shared like conspiracy theory articles about how this one article said that smoking reefer turns people homosexual. Like, I'm not even kidding. How does that help me as a veteran? At that point, I made my decision. I said, I'm never going back. That legacy veteran serving organization, chartered legacy veteran serving organization, does incredible legislative work at the state and the federal level. I'm not downplaying their impact and the role that they have had in the success for a lot of veterans, and especially legislation that supports veterans. But at a unit level, at a charter level, at a post level, they don't provide the value that is relevant to modern veterans, and they need to adapt and change. There are some progressive ones, but very few. I'd say 1-2% of the legacy VSO posts us out there are really progressive, and it's a shame. I'm not talking about progressive politically. I don't care what your politics are. I'm saying not that old school. I mean, modern vets do not want to sit smoking a cigarette at a bar, ashing into a bowl of 3-year-old peanuts, trying to tell war stories over the sound of bad karaoke. They don't want to do it anymore. They want more. They deserve more. These are professionals that have career ambitions, life ambitions, that need help and resources. Let's talk about some solutions. We need younger veterans willing to step up with legacy veteran service organizations. We need a massive cultural change that needs to start with the legacy VSOs, and it starts all the way from the top. And we need people at the post level that are not resistant to that change. If those organizations are going to exist at a national level, continue to exist at a national level, to do the great things that I know they do, they need some cultural changes at the post level. And they're not going to be able to maintain young membership and participants and the people that are going to be able to drive those organizations into the future unless they have those cultural changes. You can bring young people in, but they're not going to stay. I didn't stay. A lot of people feel the same way. New veterans are not just going to stay and continue to come to meetings because it's the right thing to do. There are other organizations and other ways to make an impact. My other solution is to start playing nice. Drop the ego garbage. Why have we as a demographic forgotten how to work as a dang team? And the way that we do this is leading the way, leading the charge. If you run an organization or a business, I don't care if some other executive director or president or CEO has talked noise about you behind your back. Reach out to them, let them in. I had an executive director of a nonprofit organization unknowingly and inadvertently, but very, very offensively insult me and my organization at the time directly to our face. We still invited them to participate in an event. How many years did we waste where we could have helped each other and helped veterans and military family members as well? But you're going to have to eat some humble pie. You're going to have to be the bigger person and rise above and start letting these people in. And if they know that you've wronged them or sabotaged them or talked noise, you're going to have to say, I'm sorry. I've come to a realization. My ego's a problem and I think we should work together. Other solutions, be careful where you donate. Rep the good organizations and absolutely destroy the predatory ones. Because not only does putting them in the public eye and having their predatory nature and their dishonor go viral valuable for the people that would have maybe made a donation in their direction, but it gives you an opportunity to say, well, here's some good ones. If you or a colleague are thinking about starting a VSO, don't do it. Or at least you've got 1,000 steps to take beforehand. And the first one is to check and see if there is already a veteran serving nonprofit organization in your area that has a targeted impact that you're trying to do. If your general thing is just, I want to help veterans, then just don't. Here's a good example of a targeted veteran serving organization. Dirt Therapy Project in San Antonio, Texas. They help physically disabled veterans dealing with post-traumatic stress overcome through physical activity and in particular dirt biking. That's targeted. Finally, I contend that we need to expand the government-sanctioned charter classification. Chartered VSOs would still be the ones that have veteran services officers that are able to file claims on behalf of veterans. However, there could be an accreditation process for certain nonprofit organizations, and they'd have to meet criteria. They'd have to be around for 20 years, have a certain amount of revenue, be able to verify that a certain percentage of their revenue is given back in these settings and blah, blah, blah. They'd have to re-up every year, something like that. So we can expand and say, like, here is a government accredited nonprofit organization. I'm sure there's probably some reasons why that's a bad idea, but I think it's important that that happens to start curbing the proliferation of the second tier organization, a nonprofit organization that has $1 million budget to just basically tell you which nonprofit organizations are good.